The 2023 season is upon us, and the Community Shield does matter. Doesn't matter. In a way, it's a little bit of both. And this right here is going to take us through, alongside obviously me adding little thoughts, why it does matter. There is Mikel Arteta, the beautiful Mikel Arteta, lifting the Community Shield. This was actually an old picture of him. I've got a new picture of him, I put it in the thumbnail. But what I was interested in from day one was Mikel Arteta's obsession with the success of Arsenal, obsession with the process of achieving that success. And what came out in so much of the Community Shield match and everything else surrounding it was elements that build towards that success. I want to break down some of those elements that build towards that success. One of the things I do want to highlight before we even start is only once in the last 12, 13 years that we've had the Community Shield played, which is obviously played most years, every year. I don't know why I said it like that. That's only been won once by the people who went on to go and win the title. So what I'm saying before all of this is, me saying that the Community Shield is important does not mean that winning the Community Shield is important. But I'm going to tell you why the Community Shield is important. The only other time when it was won by someone who actually won it was, you tell me, quiz down in the comments below, I'd love to know. There were so many telling comments post-game, the relief on the face of Declan Rice and indeed Aaron Ramsdale, Arsenal's number one, was telling. It was huge. They move, oh, you can't see the quote there because I've got to zoom in a little bit. They move and change so much. Declan Rice, telling. What is he trying to tell us? Took 3 years for Arsenal to break down this moving, changing team. They hadn't beaten them in, I think, 8 games in a row, and it looked like it was going to be 9 until a huge amount of extra time was added on. And, I mean, even then, it wasn't added on for any conspiracy theory, it was just a huge amount of extra time. And then after that, when they did score the goal, and we will break down elements of that goal, Ramsdale then said post-match, the mental block is gone, if you like. These are both quotes from relieved men post-game. 2 years to prep for that penalty shootout it took. And I'm not saying that he prepped for exactly that penalty shootout, but Ramsdale was trying to extol the virtues of the preparation that this team has made, the journey that this team has been on, the amount of time and sometimes just the amount of education and attention to detail that goes into moments like this that tell us something about everything that's going on. We can even take it back to last year's Community Shield, where storylines were so important. Storylines, of course, are important, but overall, those storylines very often can be undermined, usurped, changed, twisted, very often flipped on their head. And if you remember last season, Liverpool quite convincingly beat Man City, but Man City weren't actually all that bad. But there was this element of confidence that Liverpool came out of it with, which ultimately undermined a lot of what was going on within that season and probably led a few people to making some weird conclusions. Anyway, the point with all of this is, look at these quotes, pull all these things together, then go back to these charts here. I'm going to take you through these charts in a second. Part of what I have to credit the preseason, not only do players go through preseasons, people like James Alcott and I go through preseasons. James in preseason has been cooking, my friends. This guy made how long was the overall video? Almost 20-minute video, yeah, it was 20 minutes, on Pep is controlling the Premier League. But what he's talking about is how Pep controls formations, areas of the pitch, all these kind of things. And that was so telling within so much of this game. Arsenal have been controlled so many times. Like I said, they're a team that got confidence from playing on the front foot. And you could see in this game what the front foot meant to them. Has this been a ramble? No, I don't think it's been a ramble so far. But I think I've made some points. In this game, Pep was trying to control that 8 space, but not only the attacking 8 space, but the deep 8 space that James details in this video. I'll put a link down in the description below. Please go watch it now. Watch it at the end of the video. Anyway, James talks about kind of these deeper 8s, right? The guys who sit alongside Rodri and also control the midfield, and then it's basically control of, let me break it down for you just a second. These areas, basically this whole zone here, like 17, 18, 19, 19, 18, 17, or these areas which weirdly go unnumbered but I think that's basically 2-3-4. So if you're defending, there's 2-3-4. It's basically actually the line between the two of them that you kind of want to control. It's why in my last video I said that I thought Vlahovic would be a really interesting controlling player for Chelsea, and why I thought people like Nunez and Haaland and even Kane were such important players to so many of these Premier League teams. Controlling these areas is so key. And that's why both managers tried to make changes and twist. And as Declan Rice said, move and change so much during this game. Not only are you trying to exert control in modern games, but you're also trying to, it's like trying to bounce a ball while solving a Rubik's Cube for a lot of these players, right? Is the best analogy I can come up with in the moment on the fly. You're basically trying to move the opposition around from side to side, from front to back, to create space. City would kind of try and do that. Now, both of them had like quite deep strikers, actually. City decided to play with Haaland. Arsenal played with the kind of false nine of Havertz that was then overtaken by Martinelli, overtaken by Saka, overtaken at times by Odegaard, but really played in similar areas. Again, looking to control that area, right? And when they did, they controlled it brilliantly. And you could see that both defences were trying to basically get the best of that area. Look, these are actually post-substitute. But look at this here. There, exactly there. Look at the shape of Timber. Look at the shape of the other two centre-backs. And look at the shape of Ben White. They're trying to control and push up as high as possible. City more condensing their midfield in order to control the area of the pitch. Now, in this game, it's a one-off game. I love it because it's the first of the kind of competitive pre-seasons that actually really matter. Some people say this matters more than some other things, especially fans who won it in recent years and kind of want to hang on to that relevance of the silverware. When Pep changed things up, look at the area he looks to control. They go from controlling just before the 17, 18, 19 to controlling 17, 18, and 19, right? I think that's the case. Yeah, basically exactly 17, 18, and 19. They put Cole Palmer a little bit further out wide. And where does his goal come from? Almost exactly area 17, A and B. In fact, that line they've drawn there is exactly that area. Arsenal, similarly, controlling this area, and really the area just before, later on in the game, progressed. 17, 18, 19. Now, weirdly, if you actually go into, and this is the guy who scored the goal almost exactly on 17A, 17B, was Leandro Trossard. Go back to the Declan Rice quote, move and change so much. Look at this heat map. Look at the movement and look at the change. Movement all the way down this left-hand side. The support that he's offering for the two other guys in that area, your Emile Smith-Rowe types and your Tierney types, move and change. And then suddenly he pops up in this area. Obviously, it's at the end of a set piece, which maybe changes things, but he still pops up in this area. If you're a left-sided player, would you not rather be left-sided? Not always. Leandro Trossard is going to be so key to Arsenal controlling 17, 18, and 19 this season. And within that, we saw the importance of having players like Leandro. This season, we've seen Liverpool buy two players that can control and press that area in McAllister and Szoboszlai. We saw Arsenal buying in Trossard. We saw Arsenal buying in Rice, right? Look at what Rice is. I mean, Rice is basically sitting deep and trying to create, like, they had like a sort of a rhomboid? Kind of on its side box, because they were trying to fit between the dominance and technical brilliance of this Man City team that really just sat there and went, do it. See what you can do, and we're going to be just horrible to play against. It was good to watch. It was actually quite a pleasant watch. And what was really interesting about it was, and I'll go back to this again, Ramsdale had this quote, right, which I really like Ramsdale. I think he's a really positive character within the dressing room, and moving him on is going to have more holistic impacts than anything else, even if he has moved on or not, right? Again, there was a moment later in the game where Ramsdale was trying to pass it into 17, 18, and 19, and he missed the pass. And it might have been someone ended up passing it off to Foden, and it could have been Cole Palmer, but I can't be 100%. I think it was Cole Palmer. Again, they had control of that area, right? And that control is so key. But by the way, go back to last season. It's not as if it's all that different. This is the subs after the Community Shield second half. This is the Champions League final between Man City and Inter. Look at the area they're trying to control. Look at almost the entirety of the setup. But what's interesting is, look at Kyle Walker here. Look at the kind of the use of, I guess, your John Stones and Bernardo Silva here. Pep is shifting the people who go into those areas sometimes. He's almost trying to confuse the opposition. He's trying to make it difficult to work out who is playing which role in which area. And actually, what's really weird is if you look in this game, John Stones played as a more traditional, if you like, centre-back, allowing them the control of that area, but in a different way to the way that you would probably play. Now, what was interesting was, similarly, Pep played the Community Shield last season in a very similar way, almost allowing Liverpool into the game as Liverpool gave a lot more of their identity than City did. City are in a transitional period right now. They have lost and are losing and are looking at keeping or retaining your Kyle Walkers, your Bernardo Silvas. They're looking at bringing in a couple of players. They've got some key meetings with Premier League clubs this week. It might be that Caicedo is still very much on the books. It might be that they need to replace Mahrez in order to control and move around and take the ball out of and put it back into 17, 18 and 19. Could you see a Matoma or someone like that? Could you see a young, talented player from Brighton coming in? Maybe. I don't know, there's a possibility there, right? They're looking to control these areas. And what was interesting was, you can see Arsenal still trying to control these areas, even when you see Declan Rice comes off. But what's interesting is, there's Partey there, right? But they almost leave too much space for Man City to play into and overcommitted to some of those areas. You could see that City were interested in that area, and suddenly they were just going, oh, well, we can just play straight into that. And they did, and that's where the Cole Palmer goal came from, right? What's interesting is they've not quite got that midfield shape right yet, right? Like, obviously Zinchenko wasn't a big factor in this game because the game that I was at the day before for Ukraine played Zinchenko. So, I imagine that's going to be interesting. That's why Yuri and Timber, I would imagine, was played on that side. And then you've also got the factor that Tierney is going to be a bit more of a factor this season. I think when you see some of the more influential players come on, you Trossard, Emile Smith-Rowe, those kind of guys, you see this transition into a different shape for Arsenal. You've even got your Nketiahs as well. But you've got people who are trying to support Saka. Now, I'll go on to the final narrative elements, the things that I noticed in this game that I thought, oh, you know what? Yeah, actually, Saka's still getting very frustrated with himself. There were moments where Saka, and I have nothing but love for Saka, I think he's a fantastic player, but the thing that we were talking about last season was some of these elements of getting rid of the frustration, getting rid of those kind of little mental tics that you need to get rid of pre-season. Saka was frustrated into a number of kind of chancy passes today that I didn't feel he was properly supported because of the structure of the midfield at this point. So it's really putting a bit more pressure on him. It's putting a bit more pressure on that side. And that's kind of why I thought it was interesting that they were putting a bit more emphasis on the left. The need for the balance, the need for the inverted players. They didn't quite have that inversion correct yet. In fact, they didn't really invert. If you look at it, that is a much more traditional back four. And weirdly, neither side really did that. Not permanently anyway. There were moments where they did, but look at that. Whilst we're busy obsessing over some of these other areas on the pitch, this box need at the end of last season, I think other managers have already moved on. And their need is to control this area now. James's video is fantastic at setting that up. I was kind of at the time crafting another video. I didn't really want to step on James's toes. We're really good mates and I don't want to do that kind of thing. So I kind of kicked that down the road a little bit. But I'm working on a video right now about this area, right? And controlling it. By no means is it revelation. We've been trying to control this area since Makaleli. We've been trying to control this area with so many different things. But it's the element and nature of the control that we're coming into now. So what do you guys think? What were your overall conclusions of what Arsenal brought to the game? I still think there are elements they need to sort out. The controlling of the midfield, the controlling of the movement of the ball there. There is a Kai Havertz element that they are still working out. And there are times where he's wandering around and I quite like it, but I'd love to see a little bit more of him dominating, a little bit more of him interchanging. The players don't seem close enough yet. We've heard a lot of managers in pre-season talking about we need to be closer. But what's interesting about it is, Liverpool are looking at Andre from Fluminense. They're looking at players who can basically stay on their feet and tackle, bring the ball down the pitch. It's basically about how close you can get those players, how intricate the play can be. That's why Declan Rice was bought. That's why Havertz was bought. it's interesting to see that City were almost trying to break down a lot of that intricate play and then become way more expansive. There's a lot of thoughts in here. You probably haven't thought there's very much revelation in here. I met a hero of mine yesterday, TDK. If you're an Arsenal fan, go over and watch his channel. He's got a brilliant breakdown of Zinchenko and Tierney. Again, I'll put the things down in the description there. I want to try and pass some of the love around between Arsenal fans and channels. He was such a great guy. It was a bit surreal, like meeting kind of like a hero. Didn't think I would. Walked in, saw the curly hair, saw the brilliant face, went, that guy needs a handshake. James Alcott's video is in the description below, so is TDK's. I will chat to you guys in a little while. I really hope you enjoyed the breakdown in this video, despite the terrible hair. It's been good to chat to you guys. Welcome back to the Premier League season. Well done, Arsenal. There are still things to work out for both sides. By no means does this set anything out. Remember when Man City flipped things last season because they were still trying to work things out? Because, if anything, they didn't want to give away their hand too early. Arsenal really were trying out there, but they didn't give their hand away too early. Guess why? Well, they don't quite know what their hand is just yet, or they haven't quite got their hand right. I'll be interested to see what you guys think in the comments below. Arsenal fans, give me your conclusions. Man City fans, give me your conclusions. I'll be including them in another video which previews the Premier League season in the coming days. We've got a lot of big videos coming out on this channel very soon. We've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes. And as you can see, for some weird reason, I think it's cooler to film this way than the other way I used to have, which was more over there. Let me know what you think. I'm kind of thinking about changing the camera angle a little. Maybe just bring you guys a little bit more like that. Does that make sense? Just, I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Oh, there's loads of boxes on the floor there. Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys again real soon right here on the Laurence McKenna channel. See you later. Bye-bye.